Yeah, good afternoon, all of you, and thanks for joining. We will be starting the session soon. Can we start now? ICT, are you ready?
Yes, please start.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone, and a big thank you to each one of you for being here with us today. Today is the second day of the IIPS Global Alumni Meet, and we express our sincere appreciation to IIPS for giving us the opportunity to host it on behalf of the Placement Cell. Before we get started, I would like to introduce to all the members of the IIPS Placement Cell whose enthusiasm helped us to put this event come together. Mr. Sudarshan Bhadra, Assistant Registrar Academic and the ex officio member of the IIPS Placement Cell. Our faculty coordinators, Professor Aparajita Chattopadhyay and Dr. Manas Ranjan Pradhan. Our student representatives, Devi Krishna NB and Pooja Verma from MAMSC. Shoikat Roy and Sherry Mangla from Masters of Science in Biostatistics and Demography. From PhD, Ayantika Biswas, Pooja Arora, and myself, Debashri Sinha. In today's gathering, we would like to focus on different initiatives undertaken by the IIPS Placement Cell. This will be followed by a discussion relevant to the present job market, featuring prominent personalities having significant contributions in their respective fields. So let's get started with our first session. I introduce to you Ms. Sherry Mangla, who will be sharing her personal experience of being an active member of the IIPS Placement Cell.
Hi, everyone. So joining IIPS has been a great learning and enriching experience for me. Though we have not been able to visit the campus in person, but the knowledge and warmth that is given by the professors is very much reflected within us, even in the virtual mode of classes. It feels so lucky to be surrounded by people of such high skills and knowledge, and strives me to become one of them someday. Before coming to IIPS, I don't remember thinking and analyzing things like in everyday like I do now. So definitely my way of looking onto things has changed in this 1 year. This summer 2021, I got selected as an intern at the Population Council, New Delhi. I would have never thought of getting any such opportunity to work as an intern, especially when the COVID was at its peak in India. But thanks to our placement cell coordinators who arranged for an opportunity for us, and we got to actually work in an organization of international standards. It was like a stepping stone for me to experience the work culture and help me learn many things on professional and personal level. My desire to work as a researcher only got stronger while I was in the Population Council. Moreover, I was also part of the online courses by Spoken Tutorial IIT Bombay. I had cleared the Python and R test successfully with great scores. These courses were also very helpful because in today's times, we need to have both theoretical and practical knowledge with us, and getting hands-on coding and technical knowledge is going to be definitely fruitful for us in some or the other way in the future.
Thank you, Sherry, for that warm and lovely video. Next, Ms. Ayantika Biswas from PhD will brief us about the standard operating procedure of the IIPS Placement Cell.
Good day to everyone present here. Here to apprise you very briefly about the standard operating procedure of the placement cell at IIPS. This committee consists of faculty members and student coordinators who work in close coordination with the faculty members. So the placement cell adopts a three-pronged approach to recruitment and capacity building among students. The first is coordinating with students, the second is coordinating with recruiters, and the third is capacity building and promotional activities undertaken thereof. So coordination with students entails selection of student representatives for supporting placement activities, registering students for campus placement activities at the beginning of the academic year, classifying the master database of students' information as per standard eligibility criteria set by companies, and submitting the same to placement cell, receiving applications from students interested for applying for internships, ensuring students interning with organizations share information with placement cell for proper documentation. Coordination with recruiters entails resume collection and preparing placement brochures for each batch based on the classifications for quick sharing with companies on demand, sending campus placement invite to all companies for on-campus recruitment, and subsequently following up with them, confirmation of campus recruitment dates on mutually agreed upon dates by both recruiters and students, sending information about the schedule of interviews at least a week in advance to the students, announcement of recruitment results, confirmation of acceptance of offer letter, necessary follow-ups with selected students to submit copies of offer letter to placement cell, ensuring that students once selected in one company are not appearing for other placements in other companies. And capacity building and promotional activities entail organization of career guidance seminars for students with a focus on higher studies, opportunities in both Indian and foreign universities, preparing for competitive exams, organization of placement talks with industry stalwarts and IIPS alumni for providing career guidance to students, and regular job posting and website updating and other necessary information. I hope I've been able to enlighten you and provide an overview of how the placement cell functions. Hope you have a good day ahead and enjoy the rest of the alumni meet. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayantika, for briefing us about the SOP of the IIPS placement cell. I hope it will help the students to hone their skill set according to the present market demand. Finally, Ms. Pooja Verma from MAMSC will tell us about the recent activities undertaken by the IIPS placement cell.
Warm and hearty welcome to the IIPS family for the Global Alumni Meet-2021. Hello everyone, I am Pooja Verma, an active placement representative from MAMSC-22. I share my absolute pride saying that because of placement cell of IIPS, I could work on the World Bank project in Population Council, an organization of international standard. A special thanks to Dr. Naranjan Sagurti and Dr. Sangram Patel for this. Actually, this wouldn't have been possible without the support of placement cell of IIPS. I talked about this small segment to express that placement cell is putting a lot of efforts to bring up wonderful opportunities and guide students in multiple ways. And thus, I would like to invite wholeheartedly the esteemed alumni and organizations to support us in our efforts to brighten the future of students in whatever way possible.
Where that IIPS is widely known for its link with different public sector organizations and established NGOs to develop evidence-based data and research input for policy formulation. Placement cells constant curricular review through committee, promoting skill building events such as seminars, conferences, workshops, and meetings strengthen our fellows in terms of updated knowledge and skills. Lately, Placement Cell has been engaged in a number of activities to guide students in their careers. An amazingly successful session of expert talks was held by us, which was more than 2 months long. These talks were both motivational and instrumental in opening up the students' mind to various domains other than academia. Dr. Shalini Verma from UNCP, Dr. Binoy Peter from CMIT, Dr. Subrato Mandal from USAID, Dr. Ravi Verma from ICRW, Dr. Sushanta Banerjee from IPAS Development Foundation, Dr. Manusi Baudekar from Salam Bombay Foundation. These eminent alumni members were invited to talk about their personal journey navigating through the job market since graduating from IIPS. Here are some snapshots from the expert talks. It's been said that information is power, and without means of distributing information, people cannot harness its power. That's where the social media comes in the picture for the placement cell. Today, we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter to cherish and applaud the stories and activities of students of IIPS. Well, who doesn't know an excellent resume has the power to open multiple doors to stand out among crowd? Placement Cell made sure to assist students to market their strengths. IIPS has collaborated with Hiration, a platform created to support students in presenting their best foot forward while landing a job opportunity by assisting with their resume building, cover letter drafting, digital portfolio creation, and many more. Several demo webinars were conducted by Hiration, guiding students on how to navigate and make the best use of platform. Can we think of job opportunities without really focusing on skill development? No, right? Here comes our next initiative, Skill Development Program. Placement Cell has collaborated with IIT Bombay's Spoken Tutorial to upgrade students' software skills. In duration of 1 year, students got an opportunity to learn packages like Python, R, MySQL, QGIS, and many more. Apart from this, couple of sessions have been conducted to demonstrate the process of availing student courses while opting free courses from Coursera, DataCamp, Tableau, etc. Last but really not the least, every batch puts in great efforts to curate their internship and placement brochures from MMSc to MPhil, every batch. This basically talks about batch profile, skills learned, their contact details, and past recruiters. I would like to end my part here that in 2021, IIPS students got recruited to GSK, ORF, Population Council, ParExcel, Accenture for internship and jobs. A number of students got recruited through Placement Cell, while many seized the opportunity themselves in these organizations.
Thank you, Pooja, for a factual presentation. We hope that the ongoing activities and seminars undertaken by the IPS Placement Cell will allow us to achieve our individual goals. Moving over to the next session, which gives us an insight to the current job market scenario. More than a century ago, Louis Pasteur, a celebrated French chemist and microbiologist, said, "Chance favors only the prepared mind." In other words, securing the right job is not a product of luck, but rather of proper preparation. Given the dynamic nature and evolving nature of the job market in the modern times, finding a suitable job that is aligned with one's education, qualification, and interest can be a real challenge. Thus, in the next 1 hour, we will be listening to some of the most accomplished and renowned personalities on various topics that will prepare us and improve our odds of getting absorbed in the job market. Now, I humbly request our faculty coordinator, Dr. Manas Ranjan Pradhan, to introduce the distinguished guests of the plenary session.
Okay, thank you, Devasri, and a very good afternoon to all of you. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce our eminent panelists for the session today. Starting from Dr. Niranjan, who is the current country director of Population Council. He is a public health researcher with more than 20 years of experience, leading a multidisciplinary team engaged in path-breaking research on various population and health issues. He has published widely in peer-reviewed journals and on technical advisory committees of various fields, especially on HIV and family planning. The next panelist in the list, Dr. Jayachandran Vasudevan, who is currently with UNICEF at the Bangkok office as a statistics and monitoring specialist. Dr. Jayachandran comes with more than 2 decades of experience in designing demographic and health surveys in various countries, especially in African region. He was the core team member of the Swaziland Multiple Indicator Cluster Surveys, coordinator of Mombasa Informal Settlement Surveys, and involved in various other surveys, including the Kenyan Eastern Province MICS of 2008. The third panelist, Dr. Sushant Banerjee, is the Chief Technical Officer, Research and Evaluation of IIPS Development Foundation. Dr. Banerjee has more than 2 decades of experience in the development sector, and he has extensively worked on abortion issues. He has published many articles in the area of behavioral change, communication, and program evaluation. Professor A.K. Sharma, the fourth panelist in the session, is the former professor at IIT Kanpur. Professor Sharma is well known in the academic circle for his in-depth knowledge on various social issues and especially his theoretical perspective. At IIT, he used to teach various topics including social and behavioral aspects of health and illness, as well as sociological theories. Professor Verma is our fifth panelist. Dr. Verma leads with ICRW's local and regional effort to conduct research, provide technical support, build capacity, and partake in policy dialogue on many area of issues. Dr. Verma is also serving as chair and member of various important national committees related to HIV/AIDS, ethics review, child marriage, gender-based violence, and whatnot, adolescent health. The final panelist for the session is Madam Dr. Shirin Jijibai, who wears many hats, of course. She is an independent researcher, director of AXA Center for Equity and Wellbeing and Organization in Mumbai, and of course, the current vice president of IUSSP. She has been working in the area of adolescent health and development, gender-based violence, and sexual and reproductive health and rights. And of course, we all know she has many pioneering publications in this area. She served the IUSSP and the Council of Asian Population Association and played a key role in IUSSP and APA conferences. With this, I request Professor Aparajita to take forward the panel discussion. Over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, you are mute. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Manas, and a very hearty welcome to all of you. Namaste on behalf of IIPS. And we are really grateful that within a short notice, all of you agreed with our kind request and extending your helping hand to illuminate us with your rich experience. It is only because your alma mater, which is IIPS, you do have emotional connection with that. I'm sure the panel discussion would be enthralling, engaging, and very useful for all our listeners. And we have picked up intentionally some diverse issues that can benefit our larger audience, that not only includes our current students, but I am sure that it will benefit our alumni who are even engaged in the job market, but looking for opportunities, trying to understand the research gaps existing, and constantly trying to learning and improving. So coming to the session, the flow of the session would be like this. All speakers are requested to deliver their talk in 7 to 10 minutes. We will gather questions from the floor at the end. However, listeners can put their questions in the chat box and I will collate that. However, Niranjan is an exception. He has to join another meeting. So without wasting much of our time, may I request Dr. Niranjan Sagruti to set the ball rolling. He will be pinpointing the strengths and weaknesses of our students, a very important topic. We need to learn our weaknesses. And I'm sure that he can highlight these issues from an employer's perspective. So over to you, Niranjan.
Thank you, Dr. Aparajita, and thanks to the placement cell for giving me an opportunity to present my perspective on what the students may require going forward if they need to have a better prospects of getting job in good social and development sector organizations. And whatever I say is basically in the interest of the growth of the students and growth of the alumni where we all belong to. So please take my comments as a constructive criticism or the critical elements that you need to consider. First, let me talk about the strengths. I mean, the students, and I myself was a student at one point in time at IIPS, and there has been, there is a enabling environment, which is the multidisciplinary environment that the students learn from, and thereby their adaptability to learn different things in that environment is greater. And that I have seen happening with many students coming out of the IIPS and joining Population Council or even the other organizations. There are several students who have done really well in the social and development sector, mainly because those students who have done really well, they always had that eagerness to learn and do the hard work and assume the role and responsibility within the sector, within the organization that they work. So that itself speaks a lot about the training and the environment that IIPS provides to the students. And there are lots of other strengths to talk about. For example, we see which does not which was not happening earlier in a big way, but a lot of publications that are research publications that are coming out of IIPS. Many students in their master's degree too are actually publishing the research, which is a positive sign, which is a strength, which will add value when they apply for the jobs. And also that the students, one thing that I've noticed, the comfort with the data is very good for students from IIPS. They can actually do the analysis quickly. They can understand the data in and out. They can frame the data from the perspective of answering some of the key research questions, and that they have a great strength in use of data. But when I say the use of data, unfortunately, the use of data exists for a lot of on the survey data, but not in the other forms of data. And that's one of the major weaknesses that because I realize that the students coming out of IIPS, that the other administrative data that exists out there, the other qualitative research that needs to be collected and analyzed, there is not much of that element, but on the strength side, the use of survey data is very good. And the other strength which we see when the interviews are done from Population Council, we'll not see about the CVs having a lot of experience in use of the statistical softwares and the other analytical softwares. While the the variety exists in terms of the exposure to those analytical softwares. One has to really examine the depth and the expertise in using such softwares for effective analysis. That's something that one has to really work on, because we saw that if you ask any student to do the logistic regression analysis or the regression analysis, they're very good at it. But if it is the same software that needs to be used for doing the multi-level analysis or the small area estimations, how do what kinds of analysis that students can do, and what is that training and the expertise that they're having? That's something that one needs to. But on the positive side, their exposure to different statistical softwares, which is very good, and they need to continue to have that level of exposure, but also sharpening their focus in terms of where exactly that expertise is going to lie, and how that is going to be useful for them to get the jobs or even for them to grow in the career is something that needs a very sharp focus. And there are many other strengths, and their commitment, passion, their hard work, which we also have seen in them in organizing this global alumni meet. I know that many students are part of this whole planning and doing different activities under the global alumni meet, which is really evident and great to see all of that's happening. And also I commend the efforts of the placement cell in training, in skill building and connecting with the different organizations, which was not existent before in IIPS, but now I see from the presentations and the descriptions, it's quite amazing to see the progress, and exactly IIPS is on the right path to make this more strengthened. And let me come to very direct in terms of the weaknesses of the students, because that's something that I want IIPS to address if I need to recruit anyone from IIPS. And these weaknesses are not universal. I don't say that they're applicable for every student. They're applicable for many students, but there are few students who does really well, and also that their growth in the organizations are always happen. One of the things that I have noticed, and it may have to be to do with the training that takes place at IIPS. So it's not about students' weakness per se, but about the level of training. When it comes to the research paper or the publication, a lot of the publications have the academic focus. It's good for your CV. It's good for your having one more number in the publication. But is it really helping change or influence the program and policy in any simple way? Is it informing the larger audience? Is it something that we are doing that new area of work? Is it something that will add value to the existing literature? Or that is something which is lacking in many of the publications that I see. There are lots of publications coming out of IIPS, but that critical analytical thinking and the trust on the program and policy specific analysis, which can help the students going forward. Because that's one major area of the weakness that I see, that critical analytical thinking. The other is when I see the presentations from IIPS students in the conferences or meetings, what I always notice is basically the presentation is a lot on the data heavy and present based on what the analysis that was done and what kinds of results that they're seeing. But in the real world, and when you want to be effective in the social development sector, you need to sell a product. You need to be a business person. You need to create that narrative to tell the story of what the data is telling and what does it mean. How does it actually make sense from the larger perspective? That's going to be really critical. So if the placement cell is organizing some of those trainings, and this is maybe the mandate of the placement cell to build the skills in terms of how to what is the storytelling and how to one can do that level of storytelling in the presentation, that should be one of the areas of the focus. And so it's tuning from the data to the narrative is really critical in the training at IIPS as well. The other major weakness that students coming out of IIPS have, many students coming out of IIPS have, is the communication skills. The communication skills, their ability to speak on a particular subject, their ability to delve deeper into that subject. Because what is happening, and I mean, it is also to do with the time. Earlier, when IIPS students, all the stalwarts that we have today from IIPS, they all have that deeper technical knowledge. They go into that one particular issue, dig deeper, understand it, have responses to any question that you ask in that specific area, and that piece of knowledge is missing. That is purely purely on the student side. It is nothing to do with the IIPS teaching, the learning, but on the student side, that deeper technical understanding is critical, which is currently lacking with many. And it's also because of the times that are changing. We are in a faster environment. We are running than walking. But in catching the train, we are actually missing many other things, going deeper into the issue and being a good researcher. And I don't want to take much time, but I'll list a couple of more weaknesses and I'll stop, because there are many other speakers who can actually also talk a lot on the monitoring and evaluation. Basically, the training that we receive in IIPS, the training that you give in IIPS for students versus what is that the social and development sector is actually looking for. Is it more to do with conducting surveys? If it's only conducting surveys, then IIPS students are best fit because of the environment that IIPS provides. But it is more than conducting surveys. It's more than into the monitoring, learning, and evaluation, and those dimensions that the other speakers can talk about. The other major weakness that I have seen is that IIPS students, I'm not talking about all, but many are well within their comfort zone. They have to come out of that box, whether it is for even learning or conducting their PhD research, because it is going to pay them well when they grow in the career. That comfort zone, which unfortunately the IIPS provides, because IIPS has been a well-established institution. You have the environment, you have the support system. So even if you do what you are asked to do or what you are supposed to do, that's good enough from the IIPS perspective. But when you come out of IIPS and go into the social and development sector, comfort zone never works. One has to take those risks. One has to really come out of that comfort zone to excel. And even when they select their PhD topics or MPhil topics, it is not about doing the analysis of the existing data. It is more than that. It is the topic or the area that I know Professor A.K. Sharma is there, who always talk about what is that you're adding the value into this work. But that's the out of comfort zone is something that is required. And my last point in terms of the weaknesses is also about the adaptation and the faster response, which is the need of the hour in the industry. Because what is happening is, you might learn about those the technical demography, you might learn about the issues of mortality, morbidity, or issues of migration, but what is happening out there in the market is very different. The market is moving much faster. They're no more at the looking at the coverage levels. They're much more than coverage levels in terms of the research, and that is where the adaptation that is required, and the faster response. There is not enough time for students to come out and learn in the job, spend 1 year to learn in the job, and then do their bit of response to the organization. It is more about responding quickly. That is what is required. And thanks so much. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Niranjan, for your insights. And you are quite pointed in your speech. And some of the points are quite pertinent, and we often discuss in our academic meetings. I am quite hopeful that we will be able to address those weaknesses, especially coming out of the box and thinking what the market demands, and connect the research with the policy. I truly believe that students need to learn more. And you are quite correct, because I remember one incident when Professor Roy, in one of our students' presentation, stood up and asked one of our contemporaries that, could you please help us to understand, could you please teach us? And that time, that boy took the chalk and duster and explained for half an hour to all faculties and students that what is the thought process. So we need this kind of discussion, and we need to link our research efforts with policy, and I'm quite hopeful that we will be able to improve further. And greatest weakness perhaps is giving up. And our institute never give up, that you know quite well, and I'm sure that we will have a better future. Thank you very much for your wonderful speech.
Yeah, thank you so much, and my apologies, I need to leave.
Okay, you can be here till 5 more minutes, because
Okay, sure.
10:45, I mean 45 2:45 is your time there.
Okay.
So next speaker is Dr. Jayachandran. He will talk on a very important issue. We thought of beginning our session with his speech. However, we have to change the sequence for some reason, and he will talk on the demand of the market from population scientists. So Jayachandran, thank you for joining from Bangkok, and over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Aparajita and colleagues. I think Niranjan for the excellent points. I think many of the points I was thinking to share already were covered by Niranjan. So I will try to skip them, or make them a little bit light, or put them in a kind of different perspective. So I think what I was asked to briefly share or discuss was what market demands from population scientist. It is actually a little bit complex topic to discuss, frankly speaking, because the markets are not the same. There are a lot of variations in the market, and because the population scientist can fit anywhere. So that is why it makes it much more complex. If we know there is a specific market, then it is easy for us to mold them, like then okay, they fit for that specific market. But here, when it comes to population scientists, we are talking about a market that is wide open, and we can fit in most of the situations and in many companies, many organizations. So that makes it a little bit more challenging compared to many other subjects, because of its interdisciplinary nature. And another is, again, I think Niranjan also alluded to it, that is the dynamics, the changing dynamics of the landscape and the skill requirements. I think they are also very important to see. And especially in this evolving technological era, things are changing so rapidly, and we also have to change our own knowledge and skill sets based on that changing situation. And that is where the adaptation comes, and that also was mentioned before. So it is very important to mold the students, and including sometimes even faculties also. I think we have to go beyond our comfort zone, and then try to get new skills that are required for the current kind of situation. We don't know. Even I think I heard even Professor Srinivasan saying, what will be the situation after 10 years? Even we don't know. So we all have to be prepared to face a kind of dynamic environment, and we have to mold the children and students accordingly, because it is also a psychological pressure. So handling this mindset, psychology, all those things have to be very, very strong in the new generation, That is also very, very important. And Niranjan also alluded to, the practicalities of the issues. Okay, we all learn, population theories, models, and all those things. I think we are very good at it, or most of the students coming out of IIPS, they are very good with all that. But, how we apply these theories and models, and then we can actually, convert them into some kind of benefit for the mankind. I think that is where the application of all these things comes. Of course, IIPS students and most of us are very good in that, but I think there is a further improvement possible. I think it is good to further strengthen that area. I think that will help. And using evidence, another issue that also was alluded by Dr. Niranjan. I think all policymakers and program managers, they all look for, evidence. And what as population scientists, our responsibility is also to identify, the best data. And then try to do the best possible analysis out of that available data, and then create evidence that is actionable. I think that is again mentioned, writing a paper is something, but writing a useful paper is something else. So that is what is, I think, important, and then more focus, not just adding another to our list of publication. How many of our publication actually, used in some kind of policy action? That is where, we have to come. And if you look at that, maybe the number will be negligible. Then we do another is, I think, again, sorry to again come to that same point that Niranjan alluded to. That is also, we do research, we do a lot of analysis, but converting them into, packages of, communication materials, or, effective messaging of our findings. How we do that? Just publishing something, that is fine, but at the same time, converting our research into some useful kind of information is another task. I think that is also something to focus. And as students coming out of IIPS, I think there is a kind of special skill building is required to do that kind of effective communication. That is very, very essential. And when I say this effective communication, sometimes people use data that is fitting to them for some kind of communication, but we have to also avoid that kind of using data what is best suiting. That is not. As scientists, we have to make sure that we are using the right quality data at the right time. And even sometimes, if some people are using data in a wrong way, it is also our responsibility to point them, okay, you are not using this specific data correctly, and this specific data have to be used in this manner or that manner. I think that is also very, very important, and I think that also needs a little bit of courage. And we can also see another point is in terms of the politics of data. That is also linked to how the data is being used by various quarters. We can always see some kind of politics around the data use. Data is used in the way it suits them, or it works for them. And that is also, we have to give strength to the students to say what the data is saying, not like what suits for somebody else. So that needs a lot of courage actually, and it is not easy in this political environment and different settings. But still, as population scientists, I think we need to have the courage to say that kind of bold things up front. That is very, very important. And as long as you are, bold and sticking to what is reality and truth, that is where your credibility goes up. If you are too much flexible, okay, flexibility, I'm not saying it is not needed. Flexibility is needed, but how much you flex, there is a boundary. Don't cross certain boundary, so that you are keeping your own integrity and credibility when it comes to projecting some kind of findings and data. So those are some of the things I think we have to be extremely careful. And another is in terms of what kind of data we use and analyze and what we are capable of. Again, Niranjan mentioned that, but again, I want to emphasize in terms of capacity in analyzing and using different types of data. What we can see now is, I think, very few, or even I think maybe you will be able to count the number of students they are now working on administrative data in IIPS. I think most of the students using either NFHS data or RCH data, or they are doing some kind of survey by themselves. But I think we have to go beyond. And in this age, I think survey data is very good, excellent. I work extensively on surveys. If the surveys are designed and implemented with very good high quality standards, then they produce gold standard data. All those things are fine. But at the same time, the use of data, coverage of admin data is also increasing. Not like in the past, 30, 40 years ago, where admin data was not having that kind of coverage, etc., etc. Now the coverage of admin data is much, much better, and it is improving. So IIPS also and can take this opportunity to use more admin data and show what are the gaps, so that government can take further actions to improve on that data. Because if we are not using and highlighting the gaps, it becomes difficult. So how we can use multiple kinds of data, I think that is also something I think these days market demands. I'm not going into all those big data things. I think everything comes into that kind of bracket. So that is very, very important. And another is overall, I'm not saying like, from a kind of student, but overall IIPS perspective, what I am seeing is, projects are coming to IIPS. Yes, that is very, very good. But what we have to think is, we have to go for the projects. That is also very, very important. And IIPS have to, come up with their own kind of ideas and thinking, and then look for funding sources that can support those ideas. And that is where, IIPS will be seen as a kind of, leader in some kind of thinking and thought process. If otherwise it is just like we are just getting market, whatever is project is there, we are taking, but we have to change that outlook. So that is also very, very important. We have to go beyond. I think I will conclude by saying that, of course, market is, not fully aware of the potential of the population scientist. Okay, that is one of the things. As I mentioned, market is open, but even the people handling the market or even hiring, they don't know the potential of population scientists. So I think as population scientists and as IIPS, I think we have to showcase further. It is happening now by the placement cell and other ways, but still long way to go in terms of projecting and showcasing in terms of what population scientists can do to support the human development in a sustainable manner. I think there are other things also I can add on, but with this, I think I conclude. And once again, thanks for giving me this opportunity to share some of my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jayachandran, and seeing you after many, many years. Thanks for joining us.
Nice
you have raised very important points, and some of the points collide with what Niranjan said. But one point which I felt very, very important is the using of data correctly. And as it is highly politicized nowadays, it is very difficult to give a neutral view or a very correct view. Many times we get eluded by our personal viewpoints. So as an academician and as a researcher, we should learn how to make use different sets of data and that correctly. So importance of demography, as you said, that it is immense, and I am sure that as it explains human behavior, it is very, very useful in every field that uses that explains human behavior or market behavior. And our entire development is based on understanding the behavior. So enriched by your points, thank you very much. We will take few questions at the end, be with us. So our next topic is on importance of monitoring and evaluation, operation research in the job market. And most of our students join or get absorbed in monitoring evaluation. We know that our practical experience in this field needs to be strengthened further. Let's hear from Dr. Banerjee. Sushanto Banerjee, welcome, and start your speech.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm delighted sharing the same panel with my friend Jai Chandran and, my brother with whom I always used to fight academically, Niranjan, during our hostel days. I think, I really take this as I am student of IIPS till today. And I speak to many universities internationally and nationally, and I work with many international students for internship. They come with fellowship and work under me. Therefore, whatever example and whatever I'll be saying for the sake of students, that how it will help in future these students to get accommodated in the job market and sustained in the job market. Because there are two different things. I realize that one is accommodating, getting entry, and then getting sustainability with career growth. This is two different things. Niranjan and Jayachandran has already highlighted few of the important issues. And what I probably would like to say here first, I will start with that this is not from one side we can solve everything. It is not from the student set. I will say it is from student, because they will manage the demand side and the supply side also. Therefore, supply side is actually institute. IIPS as an institute, how they can really strengthen their supply so that it is amenable to the market demand. And very frankly speaking, today's strength of IIPS is tomorrow's weakness for IIPS. Because when we started our career at IIPS, I left PhD from another university and joined IIPS. There were 13 students in my batch. And getting job and getting monotonic progress was not very, very difficult for us. For us, there was no placement cell. There was no planning, no strategy. Jayachandran kya karenge? Dekha jayega. It was our standard answer. We will see what we will do. Today's students, I appreciate, they know value for money. And this money is not currency. This money, the time, effort, and resources, they are actually giving from their own side. And that is very important. I will say that today, every student should ask himself or herself, why I am studying, why I am doing this. Because it is not because of fellowship. It is always that where I want to go. Now the question is that probably IIPS as an institute needs to understand the domain of demand very clearly. and placement cell do a very good analysis where our students of last 10 years, last 20 years, where they are settled, what they are doing. And today that will give you a very clear idea that what is the percentage distribution. And with that distribution, if you think it out very clearly, training we are giving, that market is narrowing down. And training what we are not giving, that is expanding hugely. Therefore, we need to really catch the potential market very clearly. Now, if I explain very briefly what are the demand, this demand is having first academic demand, development in the development sector divided into two parts, LNGO and INGO, local NGO and international NGO. And now today local NGO is not what was 30 years back. They are gaining huge strength. Third is corporate. Fourth is health and epidemiology, clinical trial, clinical research, epidemiological research. Fifth is government support, means international bodies supporting government, and they need manpower to do that, like what FP 2020 is doing. Now FP 2030 will be doing. This is this kind of job. And sixth is unexplored domain. There is a huge unexplored domain what Jayachandran and Niranjan both have touched, that we need to explore, that people do not know who are these population experts. And that strength, the huge power we have. What power we do have at IIPS is what I feel, because I take interview for different organizations and I am also managing unit for myself. The power is that we are number person, we are data person, we are logical, we are trained on software. Then this is the lacuna for many universities. And now what is biggest challenge today for IIPS is that IIPS is not alone in the job sector. Earlier, IIPS was almost kind of alone. Satya called me, Sushant, we need you. Please come and join. Therefore, I just flown from Guwahati and joined Futures Group International. I know Professor Roy was not happy at all because he wanted to see me in the academia, but I didn't get opportunity within a very short span. And then I joined Futures Group International because my senior called me, come and join. Today, IIPS is not having that monopoly. I'm frankly speaking, because I am in the interview board, I know. Therefore, we are fighting with many universities who are not having much idea of population issues, but still they are managing our job. You can take many examples from me, who are these institutes and who are these universities. Therefore, now the pyramid is not the real pyramidal shape. We are getting a plateau at the top. And in this top, IIT, Asoka, Nasimanji, IIPS, everybody is floating and swimming on the same plate. Now, if IIPS needs to excel, what really we need to do? The very important thing is that we say always monitoring, evaluation, and research. I think we need to inculcate that definition from the institute itself. Quite often, we don't distinguish what is monitoring and what is evaluation and what is research. We mix, and sometimes it is mix is required. But monitoring, what Jayachandran has said, there are multiple sources of monitoring data available where you can really show that this is progressing from X to Y. This is monitoring. And then why X is now moved to Y. If you can answer that's why, that is evaluation. I do not know, it is unexplored, then you do a research. Therefore, if you trained our students to some extent on the programmatic domain, that how program functions, how program matches monitoring and evaluation from their own model. Now, what are those models? Log frame, logical framework, or some people use TOC, theory of change. Now we need to inculcate this in our syllabus. curriculum of IIPS, because this is required. If you really want to do research, then I will request you don't invest all your brain for NFHs. It is happening for last 30 years. And people are actually almost copying the subject. Only the data is getting changed. Therefore, we need to explore different domain. How many of us we are analyzing that HIMS data of Government of India for family planning? We are not doing triangulation that what is NFHS is saying and what is government data is saying. Therefore, I think what we need to do, we need to explore a different field and different area. Now, training, actually IIPS gives really good training to be a logical scientist. Where we need to really improve ourselves is our communication skill, which I feel in the development sector is a big lacuna, and I get feedback that communication is an real issue for IIPS student. Now, this communication you can bifurcate into 3 different domains. One is that presentation. Presentation is having a new skill. Then documentation, and the third one is the policy brief. Many organizations are having special expert for the policy brief, but the researcher will give the food for thought for the policy expert. Therefore, how can you connect your analyzed result to that domain? This would be very interesting. And I will say that if in our curriculum, particularly at the last year, final year, because the curriculum has changed, third year, if you can include that practical application of your learning for the market sake, I think that will be really very good. Now, the market is completely unexplored. That is the projection. Now, we do population projection, but there is market forecasting. We are not tapping that. The person who is doing population forecasting can do very good market forecasting. You see Virenchi Narayan Jaina, he is a demographer. But what he did, he was actually forecasting the drugs. And that logic, methodology is same. Therefore, you need to explore that domain. In my last session, my lecture, I told you how many of you are analyzing the IPL data, and I have seen an econometric model for incentive for cricketers based on their IPL performance cricket, and that paper is published in a very interesting journal, econometric model. Therefore, I think what we need to do, if we need to sustain in the job market, we have to understand we need to go beyond our own comfort zone. Population Council cannot accommodate all 150, which is very similar to IIPS platform. Therefore, UN organizations cannot accommodate all. We need to increase our own domain. Like that, IIPS students is working in Reliance, and Reliance Industries having huge research division. I think, for knowing this thing, I will say, be in the market and compete with other universities. IIPS is having much more bigger advantage than other universities, because from my own experience, I'm saying. And you need to do what is actually understand that this is my strength and this is my weakness. And faculties and institute should understand the minimum package you can give to the students to make up that weakness. I'm not saying that institute with 3 years curriculum can do everything. It is not possible. But at least, you can have some experts from different domain, and then tell them that give me very basic platform so that they can talk, they can communicate, they can present, and they can document their analyzed result in a fashionable fashion so that we can sell our own understanding and research. That is very important. Like, for example, same topic, 30 years, I don't see much changes and new domain when it is coming from IIPS. Sex selection, son preference. If you see the today's paper, and you see that what paper actually has been written by Fred and Dr. Roy, I don't see there is change. Therefore, you need to think it of what is government thinking, what is the policy level thoughts are nurtured by government. I think these are new interesting domain, and I see last 5 years IPS is IIPS is working very extensively in different domain, like smoking, aging, tobacco consumption, abortion, and you can see that you are getting so much of mileage in the field of research and also field of development sector. Therefore, I'm stopping here because I can address question, and I'll be always happy to think myself I'm still student of IIPS. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Banerjee. We are running short of time, so we will take the questions at the end. So with this, I request Professor Sharma to highlight on the mistakes that have been done by the students. So please, sir, in 7 to 10 minutes maximum, if you can, share your thoughts.
And I'm not from development sector or research NGO sector. I am from a university or institution sector. So I will tell you that things are changing, and they are changing to worse, not to good. Because of the pressure from the government and university management boards, we are constantly increasing the number of PhD students, and we want to increase number of publications per faculty. But on the other hand, employment is declining, employment is falling. And this is a matter of, I remember that about 10 years ago, somebody came to do PhD in our institute. She was interested in health, and I said that the best place to do PhD in health would be IIPS. And she came here and did her PhD. And more than 5 years have passed, and she has not got a job. This is a negative story. There is a positive story that last year, I was called as a visiting faculty in one management institute near Delhi. And I was surprised to find that one of the assistant professors working over there was from IIPS. So what I'm trying to say that it's a very good thing that IIPS has started a placement cell. Now, 2 years before your students submit their thesis, you identify whether these students will fit in university or institution setup or development sector or research sector, and train them accordingly. Students should also be clear where they want to go. Life in academic institutions is extremely tough these days. I'm not talking about small colleges and state universities where appointments are made on the basis of primordial loyalties, caste, region, linguistic group, and this or that. In the best institutions, getting appointment is becoming tough. Now, if you are looking for appointment in institutions, there is also a positive side to it, that do not go for colleges or state universities. There are lots of vacancies in social sciences in IITs, IIMs, triple IITs, NITs, central universities, and they are not getting the right kind of person. Often their directors ask me, Sharma ji, batao, is there any person who can do well in qualitative methods or quantitative methods? So, but why are students not getting jobs? The reason is, see, there are certain conditions. One condition is that they must have consistently good academic record, and they must be having first division at the MA or MSc level. Second thing is that they must be below the 35 years of age. Third thing, they must publish 2 papers at least in Scopus Index journals. If you have not published 2 papers in Scopus Index journal, days are gone. When I was a student, even director of IIPS used to publish in Journal of Health and Family Welfare. That will not work now. 2 papers in Scopus Index journal. And then students must also know that they are not selected on the basis of research findings. While they are doing PhD, they give a lot of importance to their research outcome. Outcome is just not important. Your demonstrated ability to conduct research independently and to teach well, this is important. So, and one, I think I must tell PhD students of IIPS that nobody will bother about your PhD topic. When you go for a job, what they will bother about is suppose you go apply to a university or IIT or IIM or some other management institutes. So what is your parent degree? I mean, are you MA in sociology, economics, or psychology, or anthropology, or political science? And they will ask questions on that because they are appointing teachers in anthropology. They are not appointing teacher in demography. So you must also select your PhD topic in such a manner that you can apply anthropological theories or sociology or whatever is your discipline, your theories in study of health and demographic issues. That will pay. I know that IIPS is excellent in demographic data and in application of statistical tools, SEMs and logistic regression and negative binomial and Poisson regression, everything you are very, very good at. But while you will be selected for a job in IITs or IIMs, which are the only options for good students, I will not. I will just not recommend you to apply for state colleges or small places. They will not select you unless you belong to a right caste or linguistic group or gender or primordial loyalty. So you have to be good in suppose you are a sociologist, you must be able to apply sociological theories, conventional theories, and also theories of 21st century and say postmodern theory to study what you are studying. This is one. And second thing, you may also, there is some expansion of market in development sector, but there are very few places which will pay as much as you expect them to pay. So you will be frustrated later. Some of my students worked as chiefs of international organizations, and in frustration, then they left the job. Situation is very bad, but yet, ठीक है. For a stopgap arrangement, you can also look for that sector. Immediately after my PhD, I went to Operations Research Group of Sarawais, but this was a stopgap arrangement. As soon as I got lectureship, in those days, assistant professorship was called lectureship. In IIT Kanpur, I left. And there are, under CSIR, almost all big industrial enterprises have built their research centers. You can apply there. If you are lucky, you can also be placed well, but you have to be flexible and versatile. The example of that faculty in Management Institute, which I gave you, that she was a student of IIPS and she was teaching in a Management Institute, is to tell you that you have to be flexible. You identify what are your strengths. Identify what your strengths are. Are you good in your subject or in data or in methodology or in communication skills? Can you teach well? Are you familiar with basic concepts of your field? Because you will do PhD from IIPS and you apply somewhere for assistant professorship in economics. They may ask simple questions regarding what is multicollinearity, or they may ask what is beta coefficient, what is the difference between B and beta, simple things. Or they may ask questions on economic theories, neoclassical theories, classical theories, or modern understandings of economic theories. You must be able to answer them. So give less importance to what you are doing for your PhD at IIPS and become more flexible and versatile and demonstrate your capability to do research independently and your familiarity with tools and technique, a good familiarity with tools and technique. When I examine PhD thesis of IIPS or I have examined proposals of IIPS, I don't know why, despite my telling again and again, students are still confused about objectives, research questions, and hypotheses. Days are gone. And sometimes you find the same number of objectives, same number of hypotheses, and same number of research questions, only wordings have been changed. Please try to learn something about the difference between these things. And so I would say that placement cell, one service that placement cell can provide to students of IIPS is the 2 years before they submit their PhD thesis, identify their strengths and weaknesses and guide them whether they should apply for development sector or for IITs or IIMs. There are lots of vacancies, but you have to be good, or for the market research kind of places or international research organizations. Their role of placement cell is very important. So due to shortage of time, and already many things have been said by earlier researchers, I stop here and I repeat that example that I found a faculty member in a good management institute with IIPS degree. So and if you fail to get a job, there are lots of new IITs, new IIMs, new triple IITs, and you can find, if you are good, you can find a job. That is not a problem. But you should also explore other avenues, maybe by making a little bit of change in your orientation and training. There are lots of management institutes these days, or there are engineering institutes with HSS department, humanities and social sciences department. They will welcome you very much, but you have to make a small adaptation to find a job there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. It is really a delight, and I am sure that our students will be immensely benefited who are interested to pursue their career in academics. And just to mention, some of our seniors and our pass-out PhDs are with IIMs. Okay, and people are getting good options to do PhD, and they stick with IIT in future, IIM with future, and many of them are doing PhD nowadays with these institutions. So thank you very much, sir. So now it is turn of Professor Ravi Verma, who always mesmerizes the audience with his eloquence. And he will be talking about the beauty of qualitative research. So over to you, sir.
This is pretty odd topic in the within the discussions of placement. You want me to talk?
We thought, sorry, sir, we thought of keeping it mainly to help our students and pass outs to understand this skill also needs to be developed. That's why.
I thought you are being kind enough to give me a job here, just to fit me into this role. No, but thank you so much for having me here. And I tell you, I think the students from IIPS have such bright future. I have always believed the kind of environment that IIPS provides and the diversity that IIPS has, it has an inbuilt mechanism to give students their own mechanisms, their own ways to learn and broaden their horizons. So I think we have been a little unfair to a lot of IIPS students and their abilities, their communication skills, and their writing skills and all that. I think most Indian institutions have similar inadequacies, but a lot of the students who come from those universities and institutions to IIPS do add a lot of value by just studying in IIPS, by interacting with others. I've seen. So I never bother. Actually, I never worry about whether students should get obsessed with the idea of just finding job. I think your placement cell is a good idea. You should really do a systematic analysis of the job market and trend analysis of who has got job where and how they have performed. Those are good ideas. And I think the students in IIPS are pretty well aware that the demographics, data science belongs to much more than just the health. I mean, they may not be getting training on just about on many other aspects of how data churning skills needs to apply to, let's say, business analysis or climatic analysis and all that kind of stuff. There are no explicit platforms. And I think in the future strategic directions that I saw yesterday, we made our points that there is a need to extend some of these skills by way of bringing other sectors and their data access to those data to the students so that they can learn. But my before I go on to this whole qualitative stuff that you said, I really wanted to make it clear that I'm not disappointed with the IIPS students, and I have always seen in IIPS students a very peculiar feature of having something unique to do, unique to say, unique to, there is some amount of arrogance also in IIPS students, in fact, of the fact that they command large data sets and they know they can manipulate data, which many other people don't know. What they produce is something that people have to digest and accept. And if they get confused, they go back to these people and say, okay, tell me, what does this mean? And then they again churn out another set of analysis. So I think there is a power of knowing that what large data set analyzing, and that's an inherent power that you have as someone who is known to be dealing with large data sets. A lot of people who are into decision making and those who are in the key sectors rely on large data sets, but don't know the nuances of large data sets. And I think I'm telling you the fact that that's where the power of large data set analysis abilities lie. So before I talk to beauty of qualitative, I think I was going to say the beauty of quantitative analysis. In fact, it's one thing that you must appreciate. You must respect yourself for that. Don't be arrogant about it. That you have a very unique skill of knowing the large data set and quantitative. And I tell you the example. Most qualitative and in-depth work are driven by the large data set analysis. It's unless you have the big picture understanding. I come from a psychology background, and my framework was very individual framework. Till I joined IIPS about 40 years back and began to learn the value of a larger framework to understand individual behaviors. And it came so intuitively to me when I worked with my IIPS colleagues, and to see that the large data understanding is so beautiful. When you see the patterns, it really evokes a lot of thinking. It should really trigger a lot of thinking and insight. I give you the example. Today and it's mundane, which you must deal with every day. So I was looking at someone was presenting a data set on prophylaxis use among the MSMs and the transgender population, and comparing Jalandhar and Pune, and it showed that how Pune, and this presentation was being made by an epidemiologist. Pune had very high percentage of respondents knowing about prophylaxis use, having a positive attitude to prophylaxis, but very low use, low adherence to them. Whereas Jalandhar had low awareness and low attitudes, but very high, not 96% adherence. And this person made a presentation and just it was brushed off. Nobody bothered about it. It was just like a statistical finding. And I was a little disturbed because I thought that people look for large data sets, but they don't really want to take a deeper dive into those patterns that they see, inconsistent patterns that they see. And these large data sets are so stimulating because if you see some data pieces that they don't fit into your conceptual coherent thinking, then it must really provoke to you as to what's happening there, what is the storyline there. And that's where the three things that, in my view, are so critical in unfolding the realities of how data gets interpreted or used in policymaking. One is the power of, and this I'm borrowing it from the tipping point. If you, and when that, what are the things that makes things to tip off? So it's a power of few. I tell you, the few people, a lot of economists analyze, do 80-20 analysis. They say 20% people do work of 80%, So it's in every behavior change and every pattern that you see at a macro level, everybody is not responsible for that. There are few that are triggering off those analyses. It also shows the power of context within which, see, our gender, COVID, and data, which we every 15 days we update and we show, to the world, that look at how sex disaggregated data just tells us point blank that getting data on the sex, the biological feature of sex, is misleading. First of all, we don't have sex disaggregated data. And if we have it, it immediately debunks the theory that there are differences between men and women as a biological being. It is the gender interpretation of that biological being that makes so much different. From 190 countries, the data set shows that in some places, men die more than women, and other places, women die more than men because of COVID. Some places, women use hospital services more, and in some places, men use hospital services more. So if somebody is talking about gender differentials only from the point of view of a sex, which is biological, then one is completely mistaken. But this pattern itself evokes into us another level of thinking, that the context matters. Wherever there is a much stronger patriarchy, there are much stronger dominant masculine values, there you see men getting exposed to certain behaviors and dying more. Wherever women are exposed to work outside home for the reasons of, either men have migrated or there are no one there, they get exposed to the risk and they begin to die more. Or if the large number of women are in health forces and they're exposed to the disease or infection, they begin to. So, or this is the same case with respect to pandemics. We've seen the pandemics grow, but not only because of the viruses moving around. We have seen a lot of the time how political economy, the governments or the market forces force people to move out in lock, stock, and barrel from one place to another, and they carry the disease and epidemic and all that behavior with them. So it's just how macro realities begin to shape, which is beyond health understanding of virus and how it spreads, actually. So our health system has collapsed. It begins to make people spread diseases without getting the services when they need services. So what I'm telling you is that those are the layered understanding that you begin to understand only after you have seen the data, quantitative data at the higher level. Then you take. So I think this whole for you guys, two things I say. I'm not trying to give a lecture on this. I think I have, in my own life, I have understood that beyond, there is so much to learn from books and books from other than what you read in your textbooks. So please, I think those who you would read, novels, read books, there's so many things to. I think just don't get obsessed with the job. If you read more, you develop perspectives. It gives you a sense of comfort. You can deal with the situation that you are in. You can find your own ways to swim in this kind of messy world that Jayachandran and Sushant or Niranjan talked about. Because I think eventually you are the ones who are the one to negotiate your spaces every time, and you will never be jobless. I can guarantee you. You'll always find a job. You'll always find a job what you want, and you'll always regret why I chose this. I tell you that. That will also happen. Because then you'll think I had other option, I did not use that. I could have done this. I can tell you that option, that will also happen in your life. And all of us have gone through. I left government job, IIPS 22, 25 years of teaching, well entrenched. I was enjoying my writing, research, 16 students had done PhD and all. I just left it one day and joined this development sector for no reason, just for the kick of it, maybe just for the sake of, for knowing this world out there. I really tell you, I just wanted to know what it is. Everybody from my family to my friends, everyone said, if you are not in a stable job, you go and search, it is fine. You're about to get your pension and all that, and you are leaving, and there's no pressure. It's not that I had also become professor in IIPS. I was not frustrated. I had such good friends and all, but I left. And I tell you this, I'm not unique. There's so many who just move around. In your career, you will move around. In your case, just have a faith in yourself. Trust that everything that you're doing, from your PhD thesis to MPhil, what you're learning in the classroom, everything matters. Everything matters, I tell you, because it should become part of your repertoire of of instruments that you would use. You'll pull out from your hat like a juggler, like a magician. Rabbits pull out. So you pull out, something will come to you. So just don't discard anything that you are learning here. Keep it as part of your repertoire, as I said. Learn from your friends, learn from outsiders, learn from books. Keep exploring, and you will hit the jackpot, I tell you. All the best. Thank you.
Wonderful, sir. Yes, you left IIPS, but I'm sure that many students missed you who have not seen you teaching in the class. So next speaker, our last speaker is Dr. Shireen Chichiboy, a social scientist of high repute and an idol of many of us. She will talk on existing gaps in gender issues. So let's listen to the women of substance. Madam, please.
Finally, a woman, substance or not substance. Let me say that in 5 minutes, I have not a whole lot of time, but, and what I say, I think I'm not referring to our students or our faculty or any of us. I think perhaps all of us have two major issues to try and understand with regard to gender, reproductive health, and so on. I have a lot of things to say, but I don't know, I don't want to go very much over your time. We've already gone some 5 minutes over. But let me say the first thing, first of all, reproductive health and gender in lots of people's minds is one thing. It's not. It's many domains with some intersections. And I think we must recognize those. Reproductive health, yes, of course, reproductive health has a lot to do with gender and rights and all those issues, but it's also more than that. Similarly, gender has a lot to do with things other than health. It affects migration and labor force participation and many other things, but it also affects reproductive health. So again and again, like today, I'm asked to talk on gender and reproductive health, and I often wonder why. So let me think. Just a couple of very quick points. I had a lot more to say, but I'm a bit intimidated by the time. I just have 2 points that constantly frustrate me about our field. And the first one is, do we read enough? Ravi talked generally about reading. I'm talking about really the knowledge about a particular issue that we want to research, a career we want to pursue. Do we know enough about that? Do we know the theories that have gone behind it? Do we know what other people have done? You know, just now I've been doing a lot of reviewing for IUSSP for the conference, and I know many people from IIPS have got their papers and posters accepted on gender, on reproductive health, on adolescent development, on many issues, and congratulations to that. That shows the international stature of IIPS. Nevertheless, even among those, what I sensed was that if we were to have more familiarity with our subject, we would know what's already been done and not worth repeating, and we would know what are the remaining gaps, even in a particular area that you want to look at. So my first, and of course, when we take job interviews and ask people, give people some data and tell them to analyze and interpret it, we're not expecting even more than simple percentages. But how do they interpret those data? Do they understand gender differences? Do they understand what might be underlying what they see? Or are they just saying this percentage versus that percentage, this coefficient versus that coefficient, and tell me what's wrong with my data set? They'll tell me all sorts of things, but they won't interpret what those data mean. And I think that is a failing of our whole community. And I would like to see the next generation learning from our mistakes. So the first step is read. From reading, we'll get a better understanding of what we want to do, whether it's a career choice or whether it's the research we want to do. You can't write a paper in a week. I think someone said, Niranjan said, fast-moving world and we have to do things quickly. If we want to do quality work, we need to sweat over it. We need to throw away our first draft, and we need to be happy with the product. On research, the list of gaps in the areas of gender and reproductive health are really endless. And I think more and more organizations are interested in understanding the underlying social determinants, the gender issues underlying a particular phenomenon, or the whole rights question and how to address that. So let us not, with our sophisticated techniques and your technical knowledge that flaws any of my kind of old fuddy-duddies, forget how to, when I say, well, what does that mean? If you can't answer that, you can't answer some of the most critical issues in our field. So I think we need to understand what we want to, and there are a lot of gaps. Ravi said how COVID data are not gender disaggregated. A lot of data are not gender disaggregated, and we need to make an issue of that. We need to ensure that data that we look at are always disaggregated. And if we're writing a paper with both men and women, girls and boys, in areas where there are disparities that are most likely to be gender associated, such as working on adolescent sexual experience or violence, or any of those issues that have a major gender dimension. You need to be able to disaggregate, compare in your analysis What is the situation with girls? What is the situation with boys? What is the situation with men? What is the situation of women? You need to dispel these myths or break down the myths that we have. For example, there is a myth that there's no point in programs addressing newlyweds with contraception or contraceptive information. Really? Perhaps newlyweds, like all modern newlyweds, want to get to know each other before they before they have a pregnancy. And yes, this happens in rural as well as urban areas. Let's look at it. Let's see if we can break those misconceptions. Be daring. There are many things going on in today's world that need our rigorous research. Lots of hot potato issues. For example, the government wants to raise the age of marriage of girls, and they have all sorts of reasons for them. Are those reasons valid? How can we write more strongly and support what the science says? Or are we too afraid to be daring in this environment? Or, for example, intercaste, interreligious marriages and what is called love jihad. What do we think about that? What do the data say? How does evidence address these issues? I think those are huge issues that we need to look at. There are many issues from labor force, from migration, and that's all becoming so clear now with COVID, the disparities, and we need much more analysis in those areas. So let me stop there. So my two messages, I think, and sorry, one last thing. What works? I think a lot of speakers have talked about this. It's not just evaluation. We want to know. People are crying out and saying what works. We all believe strongly in life skills education and comprehensive sexuality education. What is the evidence that it works? Parents think that young people should not be told about sexual matters. It will make them, I hate that word, but the word that everyone uses is promiscuous. Does it? Or is it a protective factor? Why aren't we looking at those kinds of gender and reproductive health issues? So my first point is read. And my second point is gender should permeate all our research, because underlying much of what we do and what we interpret does have a gender dimension. And at the very least, we should be asking, is this a question that may have gender roots or gender consequences? And two, what are the untapped questions with regard to both gender and sexual and reproductive health that need attention? So thanks. Oh dear, we've gone over 15 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Okay,
madam.
now you can close your session.
Yeah, I think to summarize, I think we need to read a lot, and we need to connect our research with people and policy. And we need to be daring in speaking out the truth in research. So thank you very much for being a part of this important plenary session. I collated a few questions with your permission, if I can raise these points and if you can reply them back. First was, someone is asking that how to break the comfort zone, because many of you said that you need to be daring, you need to come out. So what is the right time to break the comfort zone? Number two is that somebody is asking that if a student after passing out fails to do the basic professional thing, I mean, in the sphere of profession, if he fails, whether it is the failure of the institute or the student or the syllabus or the faculty, though very difficult to reply in brief. And third one is in national education policy, emphasis is being given on the vocational training. Is it going to help us? So if any of you can revert back. Any of the panelists, would you like to throw some light on the points that students have raised?
Maybe I think I will.
Well, the easiest one.
Sorry. I can just say a few things about the comfort zone, and then I will leave other things for other colleagues to answer. I think when we say comfort zone means it is linking to the flexibility and adaptation. So that's what we mean in terms of comfort zone. So I think Niranjan also alluded, and a few others also mentioned, like strong skills of IIPS students when it comes to data analysis. But what we are seeing is that is also limited to certain data sources. But the power of that multiplies if the same person is able to analyze multiple data sources to bring in different kind of views, and that further strengthen the kind of finding. Like what I mean is integrating various pieces of data. It is not from one data source, you have to bring in multiple sources. I think that's what Professor Ravi Verma also alluded. You need to have quantitative data and then sometimes qualitative data. Sometimes even you have to go beyond. So what we see generally is, one may be very good with quantitative data, but not that good with, qualitative. So if we can actually blend these things, that is what is kind of little bit going out of the comfort zone for many. That is what I can say in my view, in short, but there are a lot more to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayachandran. Anyone would like to add here?
I think Jayachandran has explained nicely that the comfort zone. Really there is no strict defined area, and people who have tried to go beyond our known area, they got success, and they became our role model. Oh, this person can do well also in other field. Therefore, I think that if basic is clear, we are doing logic model, we are doing multivariate analysis, we are doing path analysis, which is being used for different domains of research, not for only health and reproductive health. Therefore, if you can apply the same thing for other areas, what I have given example, that we do statistical projection for population parameter, and the same projection theory is applied for other things, like those who are doing demand forecasting. There is a narrow, light difference between these two, and you can go into uncomfort zone and become a champion. It is possible. And the second thing, that I know that this is the very interesting question some student has asked, if students do not know the basics, is it the student, faculty, or curriculum who is responsible? Very, very difficult to answer that. But at this point of time, I will say no one is responsible here. Instead of saying one zone as responsible, we need to read and we need to understand what are the different domains and things are going and floating around, and read and read. I think every time everything will not be coming from professors in the class. This is a limited time, but if you are having interest and you go and ask question to your professor, I need to know this, I think there will be no death on this. And before going for any interviews, I will request you, please read what that organization does clearly. And that will give you much more clarity that how you need to be prepared for the interview. Thank you very much.
Sharma ji has done a lot of reading on NEP, New Education. I'm volunteering you to respond to that question, if you can, on the question of NEPs.
Relevant in today's discussion because NEP has a political agenda. Actually, IIPS, ठीक है, the way IIPS is responding to political agenda of NEP is that Ministry of Health says something to IIPS director and other faculty members कि अच्छा इतना कर दो, it's Buddhist approach, optimize, balance करके कि अच्छा इतना you cannot do other things, so at least add some area. So this is what IIPS has done. But behind NEP, there is a political agenda. For example, I'm not saying it's joint secretary or secretary, but minister would be happy if you can develop a course on Vedic demography. Minister, I'm saying minister would be happy if you develop a course on Vedic demography. If you can show that you are able to teach population studies in Sanskrit and in Tamil and in Hindi and in Bengali, they will be happy if you tell them that we have a 2-year MSc program. Students can finish their first year of MSc and go for a job or wherever and come back after 5-10 years and complete their second year. These are the issues of NEP. But IIPS cannot. NEP want that all the universities have all the disciplines. They become like BHU or Aligarh Muslim University. Or now IITs are under pressure to start laws, medical college, medical science, earth science, and so many things. That all universities should become autonomous and should do everything. IIPS cannot do this. Obviously, IIPS. तो ये तो मिडिल ऑफ द रोड अप्रोच है कि अच्छा डेमोग्राफी का कोर्स बढ़ा लो, हेल्थ साइंस का कोर्स, दिस हैज नथिंग टू डू विद बेसिक आइडियाज ऑफ एनईपी. लेकिन ये जो कंफर्ट जोन की बात चल रही थी, मैं अगेन रेफरिंग टू थीसिस दैट आई हैव सीन फ्रॉम आईआईपीएस स्टूडेंट्स, leaving the comfort zone means I have often seen students writing that we have done some case studies and we have done grounded theory, वगैरह वगैरह. But in the name of case studies, they only give 5 or 6 cases of different types. That this person says this, or this person does this person does not do this. This is not a case study. Case study also involves a causal analysis. You must study a case in detail in biographical framework, and you must be able to establish some cause and effect relationship. Then what was unique about that person because of which he's saying or she's saying what he or she is saying or behaving in a manner in which he or she is behaving. Similarly, I have rarely seen a student who talks about grounded theory to tell me कि ये किसने डेवलप की थी, and most students think that this was a qualitative approach, जबकि we know that this approach was started in studying experiences of dying, which could not be studied by quantitative approach, but the qualitative approach must be adjusted to such a manner that it becomes as logical, consistent, scientific, and objective as the quantitative approach is. So if we are using grounded theory, you must know who developed grounded theory, in which other context grounded theory was used, in which countries, what were the conclusion and what were the implications. Just saying grounded theory लगा दिया, triangulation लगा दिया, या purposive sampling लगा दिया. Why purposive sampling? What was your purpose? Without mentioning the purpose, students write that we have used purposive sampling. I have seen, not in IIPS, but in several universities, I have seen students writing that a random sample of 300, that there is a study of women empowerment, and a random sample of 300 working women from Kanpur was taken. अरे भैया, कानपुर की women की list है आपके पास? Unless you have the complete list of all the women in, this is going beyond the, ठीक से करो, जो कुछ कर रहे हो ठीक से करो. This is going beyond the comfort zone.
Okay, sir, actually we are running out of time. So anybody would like to add something? Because Dr. Sanjay Kumar from UNFP has sent a good message for us. So I think if anybody wants to add here something, please raise your hand among the panelists. Varma sir, anything more?
A.G. Khan is raising his hand.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Parjita, can I get a chance?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Basically, I am a IIPS student and Pranam Pailago Guruji Varma ji ka मैं student हूँ and A.K. Sharma ji also I know you very well. Just I want to add it like what Professor Sharma ji is telling. Compared to Central University and State University, I am giving you with proof in India, not just one state. IIPS analysis capacity students, scholars is much better than any other university. That is, you can take it for granted. And being in teaching and research from 96 onwards, based on my experience, I am telling, as Sharma ji is mentioning, just applying the theory is not enough. Where to apply? Just रसमदाई के लिए सब लोग theory use कर रहे हैं शर्मा जी. But what exactly one has to do is that while reviewing the literature critically only, you have to apply your subject theories according to your research problem. Then come out with the theoretical concept and you have to find out a research gap and see that how far this theory will help you take you to the further new way, which way your research is going to contribute to the community. So that has to be there. That's what I really enjoyed listening to Varmaji again. The same style, same vocabulary. I learned many things, sir, from you. Thanks this alumni meet, which has given me opportunity to listen to my ideal teacher. And I put a question, sir. Don't you think that IIPS need a little bit modification in approach producing new education policy? Now there is no more UGC. It's a higher education council, HRD ministry under. So you have to modify certain things in approach. And they are talking about considering treating students as a stakeholders and as a corporate sector. All those things keeping in mind, I think IIPS need to have slight modification. We won't require a specialist batsman or a bowler, whether he's a fast bowler. Just I am giving an example because cricket is in our blood. We need an all-rounder. Actually, we need an all-rounder. What I mean to say all-rounder is that you have to be perfect in quantitative analysis. You have to be perfect in qualitative analysis.
Sir, we are running out of time. I think another session is going to start. We need to show a video from Sanjay Kumar. So I on behalf of IIPS, I thank all the panelists, and I'm sure that this session is quite engrossing, and you have given a lot of points on which we can further work on and strengthen ourselves. So thanks once again. So Debashri, over to you. We need to wind up in 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really good to have.
Okay, next we are going to listen to a very positive and a wonderful message shared by Dr. Sanjay Kumar, who could not be with us today here in this live session.
Hi, hello everyone. I hope you must be enjoying the gala event organized by IPSA. I'm thankful to the organizers for giving me an opportunity to be with you, even through a recorded message, because I will be traveling by the time the session goes on live. However, it's my pleasure to be here and convey my best wishes to all of you, particularly to the young demographers. I'm sure in the session today, the eminent panelists would have given you lots and lots of thoughts, tips, and tricks for your future career. Please follow their advices, and I hope you will excel in future and be a good professional expert in this field. I can only say and add that data and generating evidences are the key in the world today. You see, any organization, be it the government or non-governmental organizations, UN agencies, international organizations, or research organizations, they all need data. And on the other hand, you as a demographer, you have edge because you handle data, you analyze them, you gather data, you model data, and come up with insights and findings, trends, patterns, which is needed by these organizations to promote and support their mandate area of work. So my sincere request to all of you is to please be in lookout and see how these organizations, particularly in the field of data and research, what kind of work they do, and try to match how you can add value with your present skills. And if you find any gap, please acquire them. You have all the resources on the internet. Please learn and adapt for the need of the hour for which the organizations need demographers like you. With this word, I once again thank you very much and good luck to all of you. Hopefully to meet you again in future. Till then, goodbye and take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful message. I am sure, like me, all the young demographers present here are fortunate enough to listen to you and to all the other speakers. This will definitely encourage us in our future endeavors. So on behalf of all my team members, I extend my heartfelt thanks to all our distinguished guests for their vital appearance. Sir, ma'am, thank you for giving us time from your busy schedule. It really means a lot to us. I want to thank the director and the senior professor of IIPS, Professor K.S. James, who have motivated and supported us in all the placement cell activities. A big shout out to our faculty coordinators, Professor Aparajita Chattopadhyay and Dr. Manas Ranjan Pradhan, and Assistant Registrar, Mr. Sudarshan Bhadra, the ex-officio member of the placement cell, for their constant support and guidance. We also sincerely acknowledge the contribution of the recently passed out students whose involvement enhanced the activities of the placement cell. Further, I want to pass the gratitude to all those who have supported placement cell in full swing, especially Professor Archana Roy, IPSA Management Committee, IIPS Administration. Such a big event would not have been possible without their keen efforts. Last but not the least, we express our love, respect, and sincere wishes to all those who are present here with us. You have surely added to the charm of this event. Thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you all. We end the session. Another session is about to start. Thank you.
All the best to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Good luck, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.